okay, what is something that doesn't exist that people want? For the most part, I'm like, I'm a libertarian. Open markets, give people what they want. And I'm looking at things like demand, market cap, trading volume. And I'm not just looking at the US, I'm looking at globally, because just because something might not be popular here right now, it might be popular in another country. For instance, South Korea, crypto pair trades, there are as many with the Korean won as there are with the US dollar.
All right, Frederick Manal with Bitcoin.com.
Yeah, Stephen McClurg with Canary Capital.
So Stephen, big fan of crypto ETFs. Ever since last January, historic approval of the Bitcoin ETFs. And ever since then, we've seen more and more companies getting into the space. So tell me about your story, what Canary does, and how you guys got into this space. I guess I would be interested in knowing that. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll go back in time. I came from TradFi. I was managing bond funds, which is, sounds really boring, but we did a lot of really interesting things in the fixed income market. And the company I was with decided to buy a couple of ETF companies.
Right.
So I moved over, started managing ETFs and started creating them. And so I kind of had a little bit of experience creating esoteric bond ETFs that took a long time for the SEC to approve.
Okay.
So in 2016, at the top of the bond market, I decided that, I was probably making more money off of my just holding Bitcoin at that point in time. And it afforded me the ability to just go right into it. So I left my TradFi job, got into blockchain, did some interesting things, but all along the way, I was interested in two things: running funds in crypto and launching a Bitcoin ETF. So I started working on a Bitcoin ETF in 2017.
Wow. Okay.
And it took a long time.
It sure did. It sure did. And I think the first guys, I think it was DCG, they started like 2010 maybe. Like they'd been trying to get a Bitcoin ETF approved. It was no.
Well, it started with the Winklevoss twins.
Oh,
they did the very first filing, and got rejected, and then Grayscale DCG figured out how to, a workaround.
Yeah, they did their little. Which some people call it the Roche Motel or whatever they call it. But eventually, 2024, we got the ETFs. Yeah. So how did you get into crypto? How did you get into Bitcoin, first of all?
Well, it was sort of an interesting journey. I started reading about it in about 2012.
Wow, that's early. Yeah.
And just got really interested. And I was like, this is what's great about Bitcoin. And the way that I thought about it back then was, it's money for developers. Right? Okay. Because they're the only ones smart enough to be able to transact, to mine it, to hold it.
Right.
And I had actually took some time off and worked at a video game company called Electronic Arts.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah. And I noticed that, we were running, studios all over the world, and we would contract with these studios and we would be building things, and it would start in like Montreal, and then the developers in India would pick up, then the ones in New Zealand and Australia would pick up, and then then LA would pick it up, and then move it back over to Montreal. So developers working on things year round. And a lot of these studios, you would have to, pay them in their local currency, because I was on the finance side. And then not only would you pay them, they would also contract out, the studio in Montreal might have Romanian developers that they were paying, So all I could think about was, okay, you have all these really smart developers doing projects, but we're doing really dumb things with our money and constantly converting it and paying fees on conversion. And when I saw Bitcoin, it was like, here's a common currency that we can use globally in a digital economy. It just made perfect sense.
Yeah.
So now you could just pay all your developers all over the world in Bitcoin, and you don't have to pay all these, crazy conversion fees.
Is that what you guys did? Or it was just a thought?
No. So I did that before Bitcoin came out.
Right.
But when it came out and I started reading about it, I was like,
got it.
To me, that was an aha moment.
Wow, that's an early aha moment. The first time I discovered Bitcoin, I was like, no, this won't work.
I thought that too. I said the Fed is going to shut it down.
Yeah.
The U.S. government will not like this, and they haven't.
Right.
Yeah.
Until recently.
Yeah.
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 Which brings us here. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's how you got into crypto. What process, what goes into making an ETF?
Yeah, there's a lot of legal work and a lot of structuring work. So early on, you have to really think about the structure of the fund itself. So, which is a lot of my background is security structuring. So I thought about, okay, well, how can you do it? Or are there other avenues? So while we were waiting, for instance, for Bitcoin spot, so we have to write this entire legal document, submit it to the SEC,
Right.
wait for them to approve it. Because it's not a security, you have to get a rule change. Which is the 19B4 process. We have to do through like Nasdaq or SIBO. So it's a two-step process in order to get approved. You've got your S1 filing, and then you got your 19B4 filing, which actually has to be approved. But anyway, while we were waiting for all that to come out, I was like, okay, well, what are some other things that are Bitcoin-like that we can do? So we launched the first Nasdaq-traded Bitcoin futures ETF. Okay. We launched a actively managed Bitcoin mining ETF. There was also one that was indexed, and I was like, okay, Bitcoin miners go boom and bust just like oil companies in Texas, right? So we want to be active so that we can, remove things like Core Scientific before they go bankrupt.
Right.
So we launched that one, and then finally we got our Bitcoin spot ETF after, I don't know, working on it for 7 years.
Awesome. And so now, so we've got the Bitcoin ETF approved, then spot Ethereum came, and then it kind of stopped. And then Trump came into the picture. We've got a new SEC commissioner, chairman. And so we've seen a lot of applications, some of yours that you guys have submitted to the SEC for a lot of different cryptocurrencies, Doge, Solana, even some meme coins. So what do you see coming? What new ETFs do you see in the pipeline now that we have a new chairman and kind of a new environment from a regulatory perspective?
Yeah, and look, and I believe in open markets. So, for me, the ETF process is, okay, what is something that doesn't exist that people want, And I make no judgment on what that is, right? Now,
Right.
There are some, I take that. There are some things that I will make judgment on.
Right.
But for the most part, I'm like, I'm a libertarian. I'm, like open markets, give people what they want. And I'm looking at things like demand, market cap, trading volume. And I'm not just looking at the US, I'm looking at globally, because just because something might not be popular here right now, it might be popular in another country. For instance, South Korea, a lot of people don't know this, but crypto pair trades, there are as many with the Korean won as there are with the US dollar. It's a very popular place to trade cryptocurrencies. So I look at South Korean markets. I look at the UAE, which puts a lot of money into crypto. And you don't see it, but it's all through the exchange volume. So I'm looking at all these different places and thinking, okay, globally, what kind of demand do we have in jurisdictions that trade in the US? And of course, people that live in the US. What does retail look at? What are financial advisors going to like? And then I kind of compile that down and say, okay, well, what things would the SEC actually approve? Which is why when we launched Canary last year, it was really to be a hedge fund, because I've been running hedge funds in crypto for a long time. But when Trump got shot, I was like, oh, he's going to win. He's going to be the president.
Oh yeah, I said the same thing, by the way.
Yeah. It was an aha moment.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, what's next then? So then I started thinking it through, and I was like, well, Gary Gensler is still the chair of the SEC. He said in a speech that Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin are not securities. So I went and filed a Litecoin ETF, right? And that should, in my opinion, that should get through based on Bitcoin. Litecoin is basically
a fork.
A fork of Bitcoin in a way. I mean, it was technically created from scratch, but with Bitcoin code, HBAR, the way that they filed with the CFTC every time they release tokens, makes it not a security. It was a really smart thing to do. So
they position themselves as a commodity because it's the CFTC. Okay,
absolutely. And then there's several other ones like XRP. XRP will win a court case saying that XRP is not a security. So guess what? It should get approved. So that's how I think about things. Now, I mean, it doesn't mean that that's what the SEC is going to do, and they have the right to say no or say yes. But I'm kind of thinking about it like, okay, what's the market demand and what is viable from a regulatory perspective?
So you look at the intersection, like demand and what's going to get approved, and then whatever falls in between there, that's, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So what do you think about these tokenized funds? So I had the folks from Securitize on earlier, and I had the guy from Tezos on earlier as well. He was talking about tokenizing uranium, which I thought was kind of weird, but he explained it. It makes sense. And Securitize, they're tokenizing everything, like treasury bills and tokenized funds. So would that be something that would be in your wheelhouse, like tokenized funds, or is that because it's really not an ETF kind of thing?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
So the first thing I did when I got into blockchain was worked on tokenization. So I started working on tokenization as early as 2016. And I came up with a lot of structures and a lot of ways to do it. The problem was little demand. So you've got these markets, on Nasdaq, New York Stock Exchange, SIBO, where ETFs trade, and you've got a two-sided market. You've got buyers and sellers.
Right.
The biggest issue that has confronted tokenization, and it's not that it's not a superior way to trade things, it makes it easier than, ETFs have a lot more rules, but you can tokenize art, which is harder to do in an ETF for various reasons. But the challenge still is the market itself. You've got a lot of sellers, you don't have a lot of buyers.
Right.
And people have been coming up with these, like tokenized real estate for, 8 years now, I think. And there's just no market for it. There's no buyers. So until there's a public marketplace where there's a two-sided market, I really don't think it's going to take off. I think it will take off, but I don't know when.
Right. So how do you determine, we look at like the stock market is great. We've got lots of buyers, lots of sellers. So it's an efficient market, right? How do you tell when it's lopsided, when it's asymmetric, where you've got like real estate, where you've got more sellers than buyers, more buyers than sellers, like, this NFT art stuff?
Well, a good example is the stock market. So, like Apple, a lot of people know what Apple is. They want to trade it, or Microsoft or Tesla.
Right.
And so there's going to be buyers and sellers and people that are constantly trading it and have an opinion on it. Once you go down in market cap, then, you're looking at like micro cap equities. Not a lot of people have heard of some of these companies. So there might be like, 100 people trading it, which makes the spreads really wide. It makes it very difficult to buy and sell. And those have a problem. Now, those are publicly traded equities that have issues. Now think about things that are really complicated structures, and you have to like dig in and understand what is this real estate project that I'm buying? And you got to do a lot of work on it. So, I was a bond trader. Treasury markets are huge. Everybody knows what U.S. Treasury is. Everybody understands it. But every single bond that's issued, even if it's like, American Airlines,
right?
They might issue 10 different bonds and they might be structured 10 different ways. So we actually have to look at it as an individual project and actually read the documents. And a lot of people don't do that. So only the professionals do it. Same thing with real estate. You've got all these real estate projects out there that are tokenized, and you might have a few people that are like, oh yeah, I want to tokenize real estate fund, and they might put some money in, and then they find that they can't get out of it.
Right.
So that is an issue, and I think that's going to happen a lot in the early days.
How about fund like asymmetric returns, or I guess capital in the big funds? And I'll try to explain what I mean.
Yeah.
So BlackRock right now, BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF just is taking the lion's share of the capital.
That's right.
All the inflows have gone into BlackRock. So it seems like there's BlackRock and there's everybody else.
Yeah.
Is that the normal way that the ETF market is? And do you think that's going to happen to more crypto ETFs as well?
Oh, absolutely. It will, because BlackRock has a massive sales team, massive marketing spend, massive marketing power, and a large market share. The most important thing that they have is access to platforms. So they're on Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, UBS, Goldman Sachs. Everybody can access BlackRock, but not everybody is going to get approved on some of those platforms. So not all financial advisors will even have the ability to touch some of the other issuers. So we're going to see that. Now, BlackRock is doing tokenization, which is great. What that means is if it's a BlackRock project, they're going to have salespeople out there explaining these things to people. Right. And then they're going to have a buyer, and then you're going to have buyer's market in it. Right. So now, as far as the other tokens go, I can see, BlackRock got into ETH. I can see them possibly getting into Solana, but I think that's where they stop. Right. And then everything else is wide open, which is why I'm focused on the things that aren't ETH and Bitcoin at the moment, because I'm not going to compete with BlackRock.
That's a smart move. Yeah. Because I noticed that. I follow these Bloomberg ETF analysts, and I kind of see, their thoughts. They tweet pretty regularly. Eric Balkunas.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think
we said it from the beginning. BlackRock is going to win.
Yeah,
he said it, and we all knew it.
Right. So I was wondering, what happens with the other funds. Now, in terms of crypto, it could be a crypto ETF, it could be something in tokenization, or just a general sector. What are you most excited about?
The thing that I'm most excited about is actually my own hedge fund, because I get to make active decisions every day. I'm moving back and forth between crypto and fixed income based on what my risk parameters are. So at the moment, for instance, I'm 95% crypto, making decisions there, and only about 5% fixed income. Earlier this year, it was more like 70-30, after the inauguration. A couple of years ago, it was 50-50 during the summer of 2023. So we're constantly moving back and forth based on where we see risk. And right now, I see a risk-on environment. I think we got one final little run here in crypto in general, and then, I don't know, maybe October. I'm throwing out random dates because you don't know what's going to happen. Your data is going to change. But based on the data I have now, October is probably going to be the top of the market. If data changes, it could be December. It could even be into 2026, or it could be earlier. But the data I have today is October is probably top of the market.
What do you think Bitcoin is going to be in October?
Probably 150.
150?
Yeah.
I've heard 120 by summer, 200 by the end of the year. But that's
I've heard 250 by the end of this month.
Yeah, some of those are crazy. So it just depends. And in your hedge fund, what's the name of the hedge fund, by the way?
It's the Canary Opportunistic Fund, Canary Crypto Fund.
Canary Opportunistic Crypto Fund. Okay, so in that hedge fund, are you investing in cryptocurrencies or crypto projects as well?
Only cryptocurrencies. It's a liquid fund.
Okay, got it.
So and by the way, we do a lot of it through the BlackRock ETF.
Okay.
Well, because it makes it easy for us on TradFi rails to go back and forth between the ETF and bonds, right? And then we also have like a big portion of it in crypto, just pure crypto. So it's about 50-50.
Awesome.
But yeah,
that's awesome. So you heard it here first. 200,000, but was it 150? 150.
150 in October.
150 by October. That could be where we see Bitcoin in about six months.
Yeah,
whatever it is. Stephen, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Bitcoin.com. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a great day.